so revolutionary ideas. David has a nonprofit, the Living Systems Institute, and he is using that to create a cooperative called the Cook and the Gardener Partnership. And this is a cooperative for landscaping, using permaculture principles to regenerate lawns, to basically change them from just growing boring old grass and taking up resources to absorbing carbon out of the atmosphere, to growing natural ecosystems for birds and bees and butterflies, and to compost and build the soil. And that's a much better way for us to be using this land that we have in front of our houses and behind our houses than just grass that we don't eat. So it's a pretty simple concept. Let's get some people out there doing this work, and we've been talking through how we can make that happen. And so we've been doing this since July 16th, it looks like, and we've been working through my Regenerative Enterprise Design Workbook right here below me. I was asking him questions, and we're discussing all the options of how to set this up and coming up with a business model. And I've been transferring what we talk about into a business model canvas. Sorry, that's the wrong button. Let me find it. There it is. The Regenerative Enterprise Design Canvas, which is a short summary, kind of a summary of business plan. We're still working on it here, as you can see. Kind of bullet pointing all of the aspects of the organization that we come up with. And so to catch you up with where we're at, we have talked about scrolling down here, we've got purpose and vision. So we came up with a purpose statement: to tap into unrealized human and biological potential to provide abundance for our community. It's the purpose of this. The vision: if successful, we will convert lawns into regenerative gardens, increasing soil organic matter and decreasing atmospheric carbon. Through providing healthy food, education, and outdoor activities, we will increase the health and vitality of our participants and their families. Through creating regenerative livelihoods, we will reduce poverty, alienation, and violence for our participants and their surrounding communities. Yay. It's a good start. We can always edit it later, but that's what we got so far. And also we have a list of values: empowerment, self-sufficiency and decentralization, honesty and transparency, cycling and conserving resources, also frugality, and continuously learning by doing it. And we're going to be talking a lot about those values and maybe some others today. So let's keep going. We talked about the value proposition. So what he's proposing is a $100 a month, right?
Yes.
$100 a month fee that homeowners would pay to have a gardener come out and just help them to convert their lawn. And so they'd basically just be helping them out for an hour a week?
Yeah, hour a week, 4 hours a month, because it could be 4 hours once a month if you had a bigger project. Mm-hmm. But that $100 is limited to just cycling the carbon, cycling the materials that are on site, as opposed to full-blown permaculture design and installation.
Right.
Because we're going to use the slow and small solutions.
Right, exactly. So it's like building a compost pile, figuring out where things are going to go. Maybe
process all the branches, all the leaves.
Mm-hmm, making little beds here and there, but yeah, not anything like a total landscaping job. If they wanted to do specific things like build a greenhouse or a chicken coop or put in a garden area, then they would work that out with the gardener to pay them extra for the project, and at least a percentage of the $100 would go to the cooperative, possibly some percentage of what other work that they would do, which would help pay for marketing, pay for advising, paperwork, accounting, doing the taxes, all that, insurance, all that sort of thing, liability insurance, that sort of thing. So yeah, the $100 a month is a basic offering, and then other offerings could be built upon that. And yeah, we're doing this for homeowners who are concerned for the future and climate change. They don't like their yard the way it is, but they also don't want to do all the work themselves. So we identified the customers, we identified the product. Let's see, we talked about marketing, we talked about how to market to the homeowners. Although I think there's still a lot to be figured out there.
Yes.
Yeah. We talked about the ideal experience that we want the customers to have. We talked about the financial goals, that we need to do some fundraising to get this incorporated. And we talked about the structure. So the last thing that we talked about last time was the organizational structure of this. And so there's the homeowners that are the customers, there's the workers who are gardeners. Eventually will involve cooks when there's enough food that there's an abundance that needs to be processed. There would be cooks that would join and process the food and sell it. And then there's like people who actually hold decision-making power, who hold roles in the management of the organization. And then in the center is the board of directors, who would make kind of legal decisions for the organization. And we even listed the initial roles that we would have both in management. Let's see, we had a coordinator, a gardener coordinator, and we talked about if this spread, to different regions, that there could be a regional coordinator for each region. Bookkeeper and a product developer were the three initial roles we listed. And then on the board, there'd be a president, a treasurer, and a secretary. Okay. So that's where we're at right now. The next section that we're going to talk about is in systems. The systems that we're going to use basically to evolve the organization. So when I think of the word regenerative, it's not just that we're regenerating the ecosystem or even that we're regenerating our communities, but also that the organization is regenerating itself. It's in this constant evolutionary process of improving its ability to fulfill its purpose, right? Which is why it's important to define that purpose very clearly so we're all moving in the same direction. Okay, so yeah, what I want to help you create, David, are systems that will, facilitate that constant evolution. So like, how are you going to identify, what's the next thing we need to develop? What's the next thing we need to improve? And how are we going to run those tests? Like what's the process that, whether it's just at kind of the upper management level or whether, all of the workers can do this on their own. I don't know what it'll look like, whether you're going to provide them with some sort of process or just kind of let them do it on their own. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking about, that kind of iterative evolutionary process of development. And also around like upholding standards and values. So yeah, let's start there because we have these values listed. So what are the values and standards? And I don't know if you can see that list of values that we came up with before. I
can't.
To briefly, there's empowerment, honesty, cycling and conserving resources, and learning by doing. Basically.
So the basic service then is cycling carbon on site, which is to reduce the cost of lawn maintenance for the homeowner because we no longer need any pesticides or fertilizers or the lawn aerators or anything else that they might be spending money on. And we're going to use these resources, the carbon that's generated on site or what the client can find, and convert it into fertility so that we can grow things that are going to make the homeowner happy. So we don't want to just do vegetable gardens, although it would be great if everybody wanted to have a vegetable garden. but we also need trees and shrubs for the beneficial insects and the birds. We also need pollinator gardens to feed all the insects that are going to keep our plants healthy and happy. It'd be nice to have culinary and medicinal herbs so that we're expanding the participation in the habitats, building a healthy ecosystem that can balance itself. And therefore save the client money.
Yeah,
and so
totally.
that $100 a month is actually a reduction in their cost.
Yeah.
Unless they're just not doing anything, in which case the $100 a month is taking a landscape that isn't producing anything and making it a beautiful place to be.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, if you have this value on cycling carbon and reducing the use of like pesticides and that sort of thing, is there some way that you want this organization to like track or measure that to make sure that that's what's happening?
Well, I'm not sure. So we're going to have to leave all of that up to the individual gardeners. And so what we're going to have to do is,
or I mean, would you want them to, I mean, even just for marketing purposes, wouldn't you want to like take photographs of their work or something, have some sort of record? And couldn't you through that then just verify that yes, they are, composting or mulching?
Sure. And we're in one of our promotional ideas that we had was to do a documentary of it. And the videographer we're talking about teaches at UC Denver. And he wants to do a community developed documentary where they would train each of the homeowners to talk about their experience and put that together as something that we can share with the general public, use it as a marketing tool, as well as documenting how well the system works, right?
Sure. Yeah. I'm just imagining like maybe requiring your gardeners to take, photographs once a month and submit them or something, just to kind of show you that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and also to just document it so you have that material to work with.
Well, sure. And then we also talked about keeping track of the hours that they spend for each homeowner and documenting that. So
yeah. And they could also send the photographs to the homeowners. So it could be like, if they're there when the homeowner's not there or something, then they can, take a photo of what they did and say, yeah, this is what I worked on today.
Sure. And which goes to the transparency and the honesty.
Yeah. So do you think you'd want to, make that like a monthly requirement to take photographs and send them to you and the homeowner?
Or in every time you go to a job requirement.
Oh, okay. Take photographs every time you go to a job and submit them to, do you want them to just submit them to you and the homeowner? Would you send them to the homeowner?
I'm not sure that would be necessary to submit them on an every time basis, but maybe you do a monthly report then.
Okay, submit them monthly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe not every photograph, but at least you've got those photographs, right? Send the photographs to your client and then do a report for the partnership once a month. Maybe that would work.
Okay. Monthly, submit a report to the cooperative monthly. Yeah, just like listing what you did. I am so sorry, but my stomach is hurting all of a sudden. I will be back. Just one moment. Oh, and by the way, audience, if you want to have a say in what we're doing, if you want to give us any feedback, the chat room is right there. Facebook, there's comments. Please send us a comment. So maybe you can do that while I'm gone. I'll be right back. Just a second.
I'm not going to be as good at entertaining you as Jacki is, since she's the one with the program. I'm just here to answer questions.
I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay.
Are you better now?
I am better now. Yes. Okay. Okay, so submitting photographs and a report monthly. Great, 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 great. Okay. Okay, any other kind of standards or values that you would like to kind of track just to make sure that things are being done the way you want them
the
done?
record keeping, so we're going to be tracking the $100 payments from the clients.
Mm-hmm.
We would like to have the clients know that if they have any problem, they have a place to reach out other than to their gardener directly.
Mm-hmm.
We'd want to have some sort of a mechanism where if there is some personality conflict or some other reason why a client is not happy with a particular gardener, that we could find a way to get them a different gardener. So that's reporting by the homeowner, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if you want to just leave that completely up to the homeowner to, decide if they want to tell you anything, or if maybe on some sort of a cycle you might ask the homeowners for some sort of feedback. Maybe even just
Sure.
once a quarter, once a year, something like that.
In addition to
Like
sending
a survey or something.
Sure.
Yeah. How often do you think that might be done?
Well, you might want to do it based on a new client. You might want to do it for the first couple months.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who has been with the program for a year or so, maybe you want to do it once a year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Okay. So this is for client. Okay. I'm trying to remember. Did we have something around like how we want the clients to feel? Let me go back up because I'm trying to remember if we had some idea. Hold on. Haha. Yeah, we talked about we wanted them to feel like they're belonging to a community and that the gardeners are teaching and empowering the homeowners.
Yeah. So we want the gardeners to be in a partnership with their clients, and instead of a turnkey job, we want it to be an ongoing. This is what the homeowner is going to do. This is what the gardener is going to do, and have that communication going at all times. For example, if we wanted to build gardens and it was going to be important to bring in materials like wood chips or manure, the client can arrange for those things, and then the gardener doesn't have to use their 4 hours trying to get those materials on site. And then the homeowner, by doing it that way, the homeowner gets the full value of the gardener's services rather than not knowing what they're doing when they're out there trying to arrange for materials.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And of course, a lot of that stuff is, well, the wood chips here in Denver, you just put your name in the chip drop website, and somebody will show up eventually with a big
Oh
truckload of
man,
wood
I
chips.
wish we had that. Around here, you have to bug the guys over and over again. Oh, probably not right now though, because there are a lot of tree branches that are
I
being
can imagine.
picked up. Oh my goodness, there is going to be a mountain. I don't know where they're putting it. I mean, there's the city compost facility just south of town. I bet they already have a huge mountain of wood chips, but they're going to have to put it somewhere else because I don't think there's enough room down there for all the wood chips. Because I mean, I saw entire trees, like huge trees, just every branch broken off of them. You know, one was even completely fallen over, and you drive down the street and there's like piles this high of branches on both sides of the street. You know, I'm like, I want to do something with this these wood chips, but yeah. Okay. Anyway. Okay. I mean, I'm seeing kind of two things with customer satisfaction. Basically, one is ensuring that they're feeling a sense of community or a sense of being, you know, taken care of by their gardener, which the surveys would cover. And then the other is the educational component, which I guess the surveys could also cover. But I'm wondering, is there anything else that you want to do just to ensure that the homeowners are getting kind of an educational experience? Is there anything the cooperative could give them directly?
Well, so yeah, so it would be like a continuing education for the gardeners, right? Where we want to be sure that they are up to speed on what all the things that they can do for their clients. And that's what we were talking about in terms of a best practices person who was checking up on each of the gardeners, what kind of projects they're doing, what is working the best, right? So it's those photographs from September before the first hard frost that we want to do like a comparison. You know, this is what this gardener has been able to accomplish for their clients, and be able to compare that among gardeners and share that information on how they were able to accomplish that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, when we first started talking about it and about like submitting photographs, I mean, I was thinking about like how we do things at Gaia U, where we, you know, submit these reports on our projects where we have photographs and the summaries of what we did, and those are on a website. We just share those with each other. So, I mean, you could have kind of a website where each gardener has a page, and when they submit the reports, it gets put on the page of,
sure,
you know, tracking what they're doing, and then they could just look at the other gardeners' pages.
Sure. Although we can also do like at least once a quarter, you need to spend a certain amount of time here at LSI, and we can all go over those, you know, what can be done this time of year, what has been successful for you, what have your clients really appreciated, that kind of information, and share it among the gardeners.
And how often would you do that?
Well, you know, once a month it would be ideal, but maybe they don't, you know, you're gonna get pushback because they're too busy. They want to do the work instead of do the learning. But so once a quarter maybe would be a compromise.
Sure. Or you could hold it once a month and they're just required to attend once a quarter.
Sure.
Because they might not be able to make it to each one, you know. At least once per quarter as an idea to start. The gathering of gardeners, okay. Share photos and reports on web pages for each gardener. I mean, it would be cool because each gardener would have their own page. They could have their own little portfolio, and right. You know, and that could help them in the future as well. They would have that as, you know, a proof of doing that work.
Right. So then the next step is what I think of as upselling. we want to be really clear with both the homeowner and the gardeners that the $100 a month only covers this particular service of
Right.
cycling carbon on site, what the homeowner provides in the way of materials that we're going to process. But then upselling is if you want to do a bigger project, then we want a group of gardeners who work well together, and then can do a bid for time and materials to do the bigger project and do it faster than the small and slow solutions, to build a fancy pollinator garden with specific plants installed for this particular season, to build a greenhouse or to build a chicken coop or those types of things.
Yeah. Well, so you could have a page for each individual gardener and then also a page for each kind of team, like the greenhouse
Correct.
team yeah, exactly. And then they'll just document each project. And so if a homeowner then is thinking about, well, maybe I want a greenhouse, but I don't know how good they're going to do it, and they can just go and look and see photos and a description of what they did and the timeline.
So, right. And ideally, from the gardener's point of view, for the base service, they want to have 20 clients paying $100 a month, and that obligates them for 20 hours a week, essentially, in time, and that gives them a base of $2,000 a month. And then the balance of their time could be devoted to these other types of projects, and have an upside to their participation in the project, in the partnership. So ideally for them, they would want 20 contiguous houses, right? A
sure.
street with just 20 houses on it, and they get to do all of those.
Yeah.
And then, so a Be Safe neighborhood, which is 75 contiguous houses, would have 4 or 5 gardeners serving just that neighborhood. And then that's when we start talking about building community. So we want to, right now we're talking about the entire metro area, but we want to come into a smaller and smaller focus and so that's feeding resources back into the partnership by building on what you've done, what you did last month. You're going to build on that into increasing your efficiency and increasing the community support for what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, I mean, maybe you could use kind of a discussion group or comments or something on those pages. I'm trying to think of how to engage the community in that more than the clients, because I really like this idea of documenting the work, because not only is that going to be good for your cooperative and for your gardeners and your clients, it's also going to be good for the knowledge commons to have documentation of this kind of work. Like, it's really lacking, and they could take on, maybe optionally take on the layer of like testing the soil or counting the number of bees, or, like actual scientific data that could be collected as a result. And if you were working in an entire neighborhood, that could be significant data.
Right. And then so before we get to that stage, in the partnership between the gardener and the homeowner, we can ask the homeowner to say that we're going to host a garden party for the neighborhood once a year, every August, every September, every October, when it's the best time to look at it, and invite their neighbors to see what the gardener is doing, meet the gardener, and talk to them about building community and what we can do as a community, as opposed to just individual homeowners.
Okay, so if you were inviting the homeowners to plan a yearly, or, maybe they don't have to commit to doing it every year, but just like, hey, would you like to this year have a garden party? What kind of support do you think the cooperative could give them? Maybe like planning or marketing or something like that.
Well, sure. We could do the refreshments, and we could have the the documentation of what all the different things that are possible, in addition to what they're going to be able to see on this homeowner's site. Create a pathway for homeowners to become comfortable with signing up for the base program, which is, they can always come tour the Living Systems Institute and what we've been able to accomplish here. And that sort of thing.
So you'd offer to come give a presentation, maybe bring some refreshments. Yeah, maybe you could give them like a template for the invitation template.
Sure. And help, we could actually do print up some flyers or Google Ads or something like that.
Online ads.
Targeted to members or homeowners in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I like that. Absolutely. Okay, yeah, that also contributes to the community aspects. Okay. Going back to our list of values. How about the empowerment and self-sufficiency and decentralization, those kinds of principles? Do you have any kind of ways of measuring those, do you think?
Well, I think those are going to be built into the system, built into the partnership, because essentially each gardener is going to have control over what money they earn, right? And the partnership will then have if the partnership wants to have money to do something besides just the accounting and buying the insurance, say like provide health insurance, then they need to convince the gardeners that it's worth them contributing to that, because it's going to lower their cost of living by getting it through the partnership rather than having to go out in the market and buy those sorts of things. So we think of it in terms of investing in the capacity to provide for ourselves, which saves us money after having to earn the money and then go out in the market and buy it. So those are the types of things that the partnership will be wanting to do, is take or feed those resources back into the partnership, so that it becoming a part of the partnership has intrinsic value over and above just the money that we're talking about.
Sure. Well, yeah, and I mean that just means a little bit more difficult on the tracking, because it's easy to track the financial income because you're doing that so you can take a percentage of it. But if, gardeners are creating resources, creating food, creating compost, whatever else, how do you track that?
Once we get the cooks involved, then there's a revenue side to that too. But so if we're so we've got a segment of your homeowner population or communities that you're working with, where you have annual gardens, greenhouses, and chicken coops, so that we have an ongoing stream of protein and fresh vegetables, which is what is missing in a diet that's based heavily on starches, right?
I'm just trying to figure out how much detail you want to track the production. Because if this is stuff in people's yards, they're going to be just going out there and, picking some cilantro,
sure,
Yeah, so that's really hard to track. I guess you could just maybe kind of survey them, kind of ask like, hey, how much do you think you've been getting per week on average? Because you don't want to make them like weigh it every time or take a photo every time they harvest something, but you want to have some idea, right?
Well, and then some of that could be in the gardener's report, because they're going to be talking to their clients and say, we can plant a vegetable garden, we can have chickens, we can have a greenhouse. What is it that you would like me to grow for your own consumption?
Okay.
And then the deal is that anything in excess of what you're going to consume, the gardener can take, either for their own consumption or to provide to the cooks.
Yeah. So in that monthly report, not only are they reporting on, I made this garden bed, I made this compost pile, whatever, they're also reporting on, we're harvesting about 3 pounds of produce a week. We're getting about 6 eggs a week, that sort of thing. Yeah, and
I get 6 eggs a day.
6 eggs a day, right? You're right. Unless you only have one chicken.
Yeah, that's correct. And then, or it's December.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, makes me want some chicken. Yeah, okay. So you can kind of track the production. Trying to think if there's any way to kind of track the empowerment, not just of the gardeners, but also of the homeowners, to like have control over their yard, to, I guess, just ask them how empowered they feel in the survey.
Sure. And plus, I mean, it's by getting to know your neighbors, you have an opportunity to do other things to empower yourself, as opposed to having to purchase things in the market. So it's food, shelter, learning, health, belonging, and purpose are those things that we humans need to thrive. And those things are easier to obtain when you're doing that as a part of a community instead of isolated in your castle in the suburbs.
Cool. Okay, cool. Okay. Let's see if there's any other values we haven't talked about. Honesty and transparency. In the idea we're talking about, putting it up on the web in that kind of portfolio, that would be taking care of that, right? Systematizing that transparency. Is there any other way, how about the transparency of the decision making within the cooperative? Is there some way you want to make sure that gets shared with everyone, like not having closed door meetings, posting notes or something?
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, we want to, and I haven't really thought through that very much, because that is, the gardeners, of course, have the ultimate authority, right? The gardeners and the cooks, the individuals doing the work, have the ultimate authority on how the cooperative or the partnership is going to run. But certainly, if you push all the decision-making authority out to the edges, then you're minimizing the decisions that can be made at the center. And then I think you'd want to make sure that whenever a decision is going to be made, that it would be made, be described to all of the members. So I'm not sure how you would do that. You have an operating committee that is just making sure that the administration is running properly, and a board of directors that's going to meet maybe quarterly, maybe once a month, and that they would do a report of any resolutions that they're doing. And then if they're going to say that if they're going to change the percentage of the money that the gardeners are earning that go to the partnership, then you might want to have a vote of the partners. So, or you have an opt-in. For example, if you wanted to say we're gonna have a health insurance program, and to opt in, you would have to contribute this amount every month.
Yeah, I'm just imagining that like the board and each kind of upper management, and maybe every team in the entire cooperative that meets would just have like a page. Again, if you had kind of a web page where, you know, it was easy to create new pages and to have individuals and groups have their own pages. It would be easy for a team to have a page where they, you know, list who all is on the team and what the roles are. And then they also like post links to their meeting notes.
Right. And
you know,
so for example, Living Systems Institute has all of our corporate documents online on our website. I don't think anybody has ever looked at them, but other than me.
But yeah, I mean, when you do have a cooperative, just having kind of open book management.
Right.
For each team, basically open book management, where anybody can look at what any other team is doing.
Sure.
See, I mean, both for like wondering how it might affect you, and also for like, you know, if you have these different regions doing this, you can look and see, you know, how is this other region doing things differently than how we're doing it, and compare and contrast and see, you know, maybe if there's a better way that we could do things.
Right. And you want, I mean, that's one of the things that I would advocate for, is that role in the partnership, somebody that is doing a regular survey of how everybody is doing their job, and then identify best practices and share that with the partnership.
Sure.
With the membership.
Maybe that would go under educational here as role to survey operations and share best practices. That would ensure that there's kind of like education going on. I don't know. We might repeat that somewhere else. I just wanted to get it written down somewhere.
Well, and then tie that into the ongoing education where each of the gardeners and each of the cooks has to come to at least quarterly for continuing education. So they may not be reading their emails about the new postings on the website, but they can the regular meetings for continuing education that would be summarized for them, right? What the findings of all that work is.
Open book management would also support frugality, because everybody can see what you're spending money on. And then continuously learning by doing. I think that's kind of in that education. Yeah, that is the educational learning by doing part. Okay. I think I'm satisfied with that question. Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question. The question is, how do you measure throughput, operational costs, and inventory?
Inventory. Yeah.
I'm sure I could word that better, but you know, like, well, an inventory in this case with like a services business, well, you would have food eventually, but would also be kind of like projects, ongoing projects, anything that's in the queue of being done. Something that's not out the door, something that's not sold and done with yet, would be inventory.
And so we want to track that. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah. How do you track? Yeah. How do you track what's being done? How quickly it's being done? How much it's costing to get things done? Is it through that monthly report? Is there a spreadsheet that you're tracking this in? I'm a little bit unclear on exactly how.
So there's So actually there is a spreadsheet for each of the gardeners that tracks the monthly payment from each of their homeowners.
Mm-hmm.
And then they need to then record what dates and how long they spent to justify that $100, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it may not, I mean, as time goes on, you may not have to do 4 hours in a particular month. You might be able to do 8 hours the next month when it's not quite as snowy. But you have to track that. Then the way I visualize it happening is that for the larger projects, there would be a team leader that had the expertise to do bigger projects in the gardening area, build the greenhouses, to build the chicken coops. And the team leader then would be doing the bidding and keeping track of the projects, and then reaching out to other gardeners in order to assist for actually accomplishing each of those projects.
Yeah.
The team leader would have to have a tracking mechanism of what projects they're working on, which ones will be done when.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I guess I'm feeling a little concern in the possibility that some team leaders might like take on too many projects at once or not be able to find enough people to help with them, and that you might end up getting a surplus of inventory of unfinished projects.
Sure.
And how would you deal with that, mitigate that in some way?
Well, as long as that decision-making power is pushed as far as out to the edges as we can, which that means the team leader gets to make those decisions. And so what the partnership wants to be able to do then is provide them the support that they need to say, no, I can't take on any more jobs now. To go reach out and try to find more gardeners if they need more help. That's exactly, I mean, right now, as I said earlier, we're down to one active gardener.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to call him lead gardener.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to try to give an opportunity for people to put their toe in the water, you know, to say, if you're interested in seeing what's involved, contact Hank and he'll take you along on one of his jobs. And so right now we may have somewhere between 6 and 8 homeowners that are looking for gardeners. And of course, they're spread out all over the metropolitan area. So that's what we're going to be doing next, is trying to find enough gardeners to start being able to provide the service in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that's a matter of communication with homeowners. You know, we don't have somebody to provide you 4 hours. So, you know, it's up to you whether you want to keep sending your $100 or not until we get you a gardener that you feel comfortable with. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it only gets bigger and more complex when you get to a point where you have more demand than you have capacity to provide for the demand.
Sure. I mean, it's what, you know, I'm kind of looking at is, you know, having projects that are slow to get finished because you don't have enough workers, or, you know, I mean, maybe a worker starts on it and something happens to them and they just can't finish it. You know, is there somewhere in your systems where you're kind of tracking all of the open projects, like in a master spreadsheet, where you can identify if there is a problem and maybe try to find somebody to fill in or something? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Sure. And, you know, right in the beginning, we would have our lead gardener, who is working with all the other gardeners trying to find them homeowners. And then when we take that next step and we've got a team, so we'll just use the greenhouses as an example. So the greenhouse building team, they would have a group that they all rely on one another. And if something happened to the team leader, then we would be looking to find a way to get one of the other team members to step up and take that leadership role. So,
yeah.
But, we're a long ways away from being able to have that luxury.
Sure. Yeah, I just scrolled up and looked at the product developer role, and we did say that they would keep track of what gardeners do and evaluate the results. So it would be up to that product developer role to keep a master spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Product developer keeps master spreadsheet and somehow addresses issues in Throughput. Like Throughput is like how quickly you get things done, right?
Sure.
And let's say operational costs and inventory. So if like costs go above what they need to, or
and that's why you'd want a team that builds greenhouses. We want to have a standard way we go about doing that.
Sure.
And they're passive solar greenhouses that don't need a lot of power and
sure. Yeah.
Sort of thing.
But it would be that product developer that would just kind of oversee it just to make sure that things are going smoothly and intervene if there was a problem.
And find additional resources in the partnership or from outside in order to develop the capacity to meet the demand.
Okay, so that answers that question. Here, where are we at on time? Okay, we got like 10 minutes left. Okay. Here, hold up. I can't see the bottom of my paper here. There we go. Now I can scroll down. Okay. Okay, are there other metrics, activities, or resources that you need to track? Anything we missed?
What else do we need to track? We need to track how well we're recruiting new gardeners, maybe.
Recruiting.
And how well we're recruiting new homeowners. And so that at the core, that just how many resources do we want to put into marketing in this area or that area?
Cool. Anything else?
We might have gotten off the top of my head.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we talked about a lot, so I think we probably got it. Okay. How will you incentivize your workers to improve their performance? How can you make it a game?
A game?
How can you make it fun?
Well, sure.
Or at least interesting.
Well, you can have a contest for the biggest pumpkin.
Just
as an example. Have them keep track of how well they're doing in specific areas. And if we could tie that somehow to using that productivity as a demonstration of how well the fertility of the system is being increased. So there's specific plants that you would want to grow because we're doing a polyculture. And if we can figure out both the soil ecosystem and the polyculture that's going to maximize the production. Overall production is the big picture, but there's going to be some particular item that will be easy to count, like the number of pumpkins that you get out of this system, or the number of tomatoes or something.
So before we said that in their monthly report they should report on an approximation of how much they're harvesting or how much is being harvested. They might not be doing it all themselves. From the property they're working on, from each property they're working on. I'm wondering if you might want to standardize how they record that information in a way that you could easily compare between different gardeners, or add it together, like
Well, that's what I'm saying. If there were, if there was a particular plant that they had to be meticulous about measuring the production of, and then we'd have that comparison.
Okay. Yeah, you could start with just tracking a few things. I mean, I imagine eventually you could make some sort of a database where they would just, put in eggs, 6 per day, and like it would just like put it in a, a database of all of, from all of the different gardens, and you can track over time and all this. But setting that up might be kind of a pain. So maybe at first you could just say, okay, we're just tracking lettuce. Yeah.
Or for this month, we're tracking lettuce. And then later on, we're tracking something else, because lettuce is only going to be, well, unless you're pulling it out of the greenhouse, that's a different season, right?
Yeah. And I'd say it might not even be a crop. It might be like, this month we're going to track how big your compost pile is or something, some kind of output.
Yeah, although we don't do any composting. No composting.
You're not going to have a compost piles?
No.
No? Wait, what are you doing?
Everything goes to the chickens.
Oh, the chickens.
Everything else just goes into the garden.
Oh, just throw it directly on the garden?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's deep mulch gardening system.
Oh, just deep mulch on the garden. Yeah, that works. Cool.
So you could do square feet of garden built to at least a foot deep.
Yeah. I try to get as much mulch on my gardens as I can. I have a worm compost bin, which is currently completely overtaken by black soldier flies, which I am not complaining about. Yeah, well, I don't have chickens, unfortunately, but they are eating my compost, so I'm happy about that. So, yeah, okay, yeah. How deep your mulch is, that's what you can measure. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Say, okay, this month we're going to measure how deep everybody's mulch is, or, this month we're going to measure.
Yeah, and then the gardener can involve the homeowner in that. This is what we're trying to measure. Do you want to bring in a load of wood chips this month?
Sure. Or like, we're going to, how many bees can you take photos of? This one, something like that. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, that's a good place to start. Okay. And then, the process of making improvements to your systems. So, like, let's take, for example, your system of the way that you try to get your homeowners to host garden parties. I mean, it's a little obscure, but let's just pick that one. Like, let's say you do this the first year and you invite all of your homeowners to host garden parties and only one of them does. Let's say you had like 20 at that point and only one of them does. And you're like, hey, why aren't our homeowners wanting to do garden parties? How might you organize trying things out differently in a way that you could track whether what you tried worked or not? To kind of show, yeah, like let's say we're sitting down as a team, like rather than kind of haphazardly doing stuff, just tracking like, okay, well, let's try changing this aspect of it. Let's try offering them more refreshments and see if that works or something. Like, is there a way then 5 years from now, when somebody goes back and says, hey, we're having the same problem again, they could go back and look at the record of all of the things that have been tried so that they don't keep trying the same things over and over again that don't work.
And how would we do that? We're already tracking how successful we are at bringing in new gardeners, and how successfully we are in bringing in new homeowners.
Yeah.
And then so part of the way we bring in new homeowners is by asking existing homeowners to hold a garden party.
Mm-hmm.
And the person doing that asking is probably the gardeners. I mean, we've got a broadcast email list that has all the homeowners on it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a regular newsletter out about that. But there's another broadcast email list to all of the gardeners. And so we can so the goal then would be to get feedback from the gardeners and the homeowners about why what is the friction, why people are not signing up to do garden parties.
Yeah. And my question is, like, how do you collect that information so that you can make sense of it over time?
And so we need somebody that's going to be collecting that information.
Mm-hmm.
And posting it somewhere or presenting or feeding it back to the gardeners and to the homeowners,
Mm-hmm.
saying this is the reason you want to hold a garden party, so you get to meet all your neighbors. So all your neighbors are now having their lawns converted to a habitat, and so that none of your neighbors are going to be calling zoning and planning on you. Those types of things, and maybe we can assign that to the best practices person.
Okay, yeah,
at least in the beginning.
Product. Wait, what do we call that role? Product developer is what we called it. We could change that, but so we called it product developer. Okay, so yeah, it definitely goes along with that. Best practices. So they would track development of best practices over time.
Right, including best practices about how to get a homeowner to host a garden party.
Right. And so would they be the only person tracking that, or could they also kind of maybe encourage the other teams to track their own progress so that they don't have to track everything, like giving teams best practices for tracking your development of your best practices?
Sure. Well, so the gardeners have to decide, right? Mm-hmm. Do they want to contribute money to the center mm-hmm. to do a marketing program through a mass media type market, or do they want to develop the expertise at the gardening team level to be able to do so have a smaller contribution to the center to provide mm-hmm. materials that then they can use in the outreach mm-hmm. to homeowners through nextdoor.com and mm-hmm. Local Facebook groups and that sort of and door hangers or whatever you wanted to do to try and encourage greater participation. Mm-hmm. And that goes also to recruiting more gardeners, I think, right? If we as a gardening team are being successful in bringing homeowners, then we need to bring in enough help so that we can provide for those. So that we could try to build that resource at the center, or we could try to push it out to the edges.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, and that's kind of the question I'm asking, because the rest of this question is, let me just read the whole question. What is the process for making improvements to your systems? Is it scientific, and who can participate? So I'm kind of addressing the who can participate part. Like, is it all the product developer's job? Or, if you're pushing it out to the edges, are you expecting your workers to track, their systems? Are you expecting them to submit some sort of timeline or something to show, we tried this, and then we tried this, and then we tried this, and then we tried this, in some sort of standardized way, or just leaving up to them? Because I don't know, this tends to be a chaotic process in participatory systems, very chaotic. And you end up with people who join and start saying, hey, why aren't we doing this? And you're like, because we did that 2 years ago. And if you don't have the tracking of that, if you can't prove that you did it 2 years ago and it didn't work, then you say, oh, well, we just need to try it again. And you end up wasting a lot of time and energy, like trying the same things over and over and over again, because new people come in and they don't remember. They weren't there the last time you did that exact same thing and it didn't work, or everybody changes and nobody remembers because nobody was there. So is there a way to kind of record the past and I mean, this is hard. I'm not saying that I have any answers to it, to make it easier to like go, hey, I wonder if anybody's ever tried this before, and look it up.
Sure. And so you were putting a lot now on that product developer's role, and maybe it's 2 or 3 people fulfilling that role as we get bigger, right?
Yeah, or just have some sort of a standardized way of tracking it.
Well, so we'd have the materials that we've used and whether the materials are effective. And then we would have the way that each gardening team used those materials and be able to compare which of those were more effective. And that's the ideal of pushing all the decision making out to the edges.
Yeah.
It's because each gardening team then is making their own decisions, and then you can compare.
Well, and it's within that decision making process, and we were talking about having each team have some sort of a page somewhere where they put their meeting notes. So maybe in addition to meeting notes, because it's hard to dig through meeting notes to find this kind of information. So maybe I'm suggesting maybe in addition to meeting notes, maybe they need to have a separate spreadsheet or document for each aspect of what they're doing, where they're tracking, each, and I don't even know how to explain it, but like,
Well, so once you have it to that point where the gardening team is doing the marketing,
right?
Both bringing on more gardeners and bringing on more homeowners,
right?
Then for each team, you can compare how effective each team will be, and then your best practices person, your product development person, then can go and interview and find out what was different. Or at least look through the reports and see if they can determine what's different.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe we could link it to the accountabilities. So, like, if a team had an accountability of doing marketing, like if the organization as a whole decided that, that the regions are going to do their own marketing or something, that, for each accountability, you just need to have a separate spreadsheet where you're just tracking your activity, completing that accountability, and summarizing how you're doing it, and then putting the outcomes of like how much money you spent versus how many new members you got or something like that.
Right. Or how many postings on the local media or whatever.
Exactly. So yeah, if like let's say a team was responsible for recruiting homeowners, it's a gardening team. They're responsible for helping their team, to everybody on their team to recruit homeowners within their area. Then they just create a spreadsheet and say, and in that spreadsheet they put, we posted on social media and boosted it for $20. We got 1 new person. We put out flyers and we got 2 new people. And, in as much detail as they can, explain what they did and what the outcome was, so that, when new people join the team, they can go through that and see, oh, we put out flyers and we only got this many people, but we did this other thing and we got a bunch of new people, so it's not just hearsay. You actually have a record of it.
Right. And then have that synthesized, have that processed in the center someplace so that it can be available to all the gardeners without them having to go out and find that information for themselves. So that's the role of the product developer guy.
Okay. Got it. And we're a little over time. I would like to stop. I'm just going to look at this last question real quick to see if we have time. No, I want to discuss this last question next time because I want to spend some time on it. Okay. Awesome. And just to throw it out there so you have some time to think about it before next time, the last question is, what's the process of testing your product or service on real customers? Like to get customer feedback, which kind of, I don't know, it's kind of what we just talked about. It might be the same thing, but I don't know. If there's anything else we could say about it, we'll answer that next time. Okay. And then we'll go on to the next section, which is impacts. measuring impacts, like environmental impacts and stuff like that.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, which we kind of started talking about, but yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and thank you, audience, who may be watching this after the fact. That's fine. I didn't really see anybody engaging in the chat, and that's fine. But, if you do want to get involved in this, you can join us next time. There's a Google Calendar where I keep up to date postings of when I'm having the next stream and who I'm having it with. And that's on my website at regenerativedynamics.com, and also on Twitch. And you can see all the episodes on YouTube, and you can join my Patreon at patreon.com/regenerativerevolution. And then you kind of get to talk to me there and be more involved. And I have not been on Patreon very much because I'm finishing my master's degree right now, so I'm sorry everybody, I have not been keeping up with everything, but I will be done by the end of the month, and then I'll be putting a lot more attention on you guys and giving you more content and more chances to get involved. And if you want to get involved with what David is doing or talk to him directly, you can see his link there on the page at livingsystemsinst.org, and also at the Cook and the Gardener blog spot. That's his blog. That's the blog. But yeah, livingsystemsinst.org is where you can get a hold of David. So we will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.